Uh, my name is Shayna Sherman. I'm the campaign manager for the Jewish Federation of Somerset, Hunterdon, and Warren counties. This is Joey. The Jewish Federation of Somerset, Hunterdon, and Warren counties is proud to invest in Jewish life by building, supporting, and safeguarding Jewish communities locally in Israel and around the world, which is really why we're here today to hear from Yana and Andrew. And I decided that, it might be appropriate for Joey to join. As you all know, the topic for today is hearing Yana and Andrew's story. And you can see that they have, or you'll see soon that they have a 5-month-old. And I happen to have a 4-month-old. And while today is not about me in any way, I cannot begin to imagine going through what Yana and Andrew have experienced, and Rosie here from Bridgewater, New Jersey, where I am. And so Yana and Andrew, on behalf of the Federation, our warm and welcoming Jewish community, we want to thank you for joining us this morning. And I want to introduce our community leaders, and they'll share a little bit more about themselves, Michael and Stacy Friedlander. And we're really, again, so appreciative on behalf of the Jewish Federation of Somerset, Hunterdon, and Warren counties for you joining us today.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Michael and I have had a chance to speak with Yana and Andrew before the start of this call. As for myself, I am a mom of 2 boys, and I have very closely been following the situation in Ukraine. I shared with Yana and Andrew that the whole idea of bearing witness to what is happening is important, not just for everyone, but especially for the Jewish community. The whole idea and theme of never again is so important. Their journey as a young family with 2 children can be sad to hear, and Yana is going to share more specifically about their journey. But I think it's important that, this is not a moment you're reading about on Twitter. This is not a story you're hearing about on Facebook. This is them. They're here. They're live, speaking with us today. And as for myself, I am actively involved with the Jewish Federation. I'm a proud blank fellow. I had the opportunity to travel to where Yana and Andrew are. They are staying with General Benzi, who I had the pleasure of meeting when I was in Jerusalem in 2020. I'm so glad that they are safe and staying with such a loving and caring family. I'm also president of Sisterhood here at Temple Shalom in Bridgewater. And I hope that having everybody here today and sharing their story with our community will help be impactful.
And hi, everybody. I'm Michael. Thank you for joining. I'm on the board for the Jewish Federation of Somerset, Hunterdon, and Warren County. And one of the reasons I joined the board a couple of years back was because of community. We're not just here within New Jersey, but beyond. And this is a great opportunity for all of us to hear an amazing story that probably all of us have been glued to the TV for the last month. And now we get to hear it firsthand, and the help that's happening around the world to support the different communities that are in trouble and what we can do together to make a difference. So thank you, Yana and Andrew, for spending time and telling us your story. We look forward to hearing from you.
Now it's our turn. Hi, everybody. Good morning. Thank you very much for finding time to listen to our story. My name is Yana, and my husband's name is...
My name is Andrew.
Yeah, and we are from Ukraine. This is Rosie. We're like parents for 2 kids, Rosie and Albert. Rosie is 5 months old, and our eldest son, Albert, he is almost 4 years old. He will have birthday in May. So yeah, we're just ordinary family. I mean, those representative of the middle class in Ukraine. I mean, like people that, I mean, the minority, let's say, because in Ukraine, like middle class is almost absent, but we used to live as normal people do, you know, our children, I mean, Albert went to the kindergarten. We had in Ukraine our own business. We had like 2 companies. One is real estate company and another one is marketing and advertisement agency. And we provided like services business to business for Ukrainian developers over there. So we just, you know, spent our life as I say, as normal people, you know, visiting our friends, working, like, you know, provide working places for the people, I mean, who work in our team. And come here, Albert. I will just show you Albert. He's a bit, say hi, everybody. Say hi, Lauren. Hi. Yeah, and so it's like needless to say for sure that we have like a lot of friends, and my family is there in Ukraine. I mean, like my parents, he stay in Ukraine, and we couldn't, you know, foreseen that our life one day will change absolutely and we'll finish and we'll have to start like a new life from zero, from the very beginning with 2 of our kids. And that morning, like, you know, we're going to bed on the 23rd of February, as usual, you know, feeding our Rosa, you know, telling like a story, like night story for Albert. And in the morning, we woke up because of the explosions, you know, at 3 o'clock in the morning, I was feeding like my daughter. And then I just was unable to sleep until 5 o'clock. And then at 5:05 on the 24th of February, we just heard, you know, the bombs, and that's it. Then I went, you know, to the bedroom where my husband was sleeping. I said, "Did you hear that?" And he said, "Yes, there is something very unusual." And we like type immediately, you know, the message to some of our team members, and they live in Kharkiv and work remotely. And they said like, "Yes, here's the bomb even in Kharkiv." So, I mean, for us, you know, needless to say that for us, it was a signal. I mean, it's over, that's it. And we have to pack the luggages and run away immediately. And it was like, as I say, like early morning. So we start to pack the luggages with Andrews and Albert, you know, he like woke up at 5:40 looking at us and start crying immediately because, you know, he was like looking at us like a person. It's like, "Where are you going? Why are you packing the luggages? What is going on?" And he's like almost 4. I mean, he's still very small, but understand everything. So like that, like, "Don't worry, we are going to visit your grandparents." Yeah, and like, you know, in 1 hour, like with 2 luggages, Rosie in the stroller, now Albert, we just went on the street, and it was like raining, and it was like a, you know, like in the movie Apocalypse, because like there were like crazy cars, you know, some strange noise. I mean, somewhere it was like police cars, somewhere it was like ambulances, and it was a disaster. And by chance, you know, we're in Kiev, we were living like in the very city center, and it's like really close to Israeli embassy. So our first idea was like to run there like immediately. So with our 2 kids, we ran to the embassy, but there were nobody, only like 1 Ukrainian policeman staying over there, and told us that from the embassy, everybody left like 2 days ago. And now they're located in Lviv, and that's it. And we're staying in the middle of the road, you know, didn't know what to do. I mean, then like I called my dad, asked, "Can like somebody, you know, get us out of there?" Because like it was impossible to call a taxi or anything. We didn't know what to do. And by chance, I mean, like our friends, because my husband, he's like Instagram blogger as well, you know, he has like 70,000 followers on Instagram. So that morning he just make a post on Instagram and ask whether somebody have cars or plan to go out like from Kiev. Because just the only thing, it was like early morning, a lot of people still were sleeping, you know, and because like when we went out from our apartments, we just knocked our neighbors just to check maybe they have some extra car or maybe they plan to go. And our neighbor opened the door and she was like sleepy and she didn't understand what is going on at all. I mean, why we're going to leave and etc. Yeah, so like our friends, they gave us the car because they were at the time in Thailand and left the car and the key from the car in Kiev and asked us to pick the car up to use it and then to live somewhere in safety place if possible. So we took the car and went directly to my parents. My parents, they live in the middle of the country. It's like 300 kilometers from Kiev to the south. And normally the road takes like 3.5 hours. But that morning it took us almost 9 hours to get to the apartments with small kids by car. I mean, we arrived to them, spent their night. And my father, he told me that it's not even safety, you know, to stay in the middle of the country. And especially he told us that you have like really small kids, you have to go to the west and try to get out from the country if it's possible. So like, you know, the next morning woke up like as early as possible because the traffic on the roads, I mean, even on the highways was terrible already. I mean, and yeah, we went to the west. So our aim was to get to Lviv, but we didn't manage that day because it like took us 14 hours to get only to Ternopil. Ternopil is like 100 kilometers from Lviv. And we spent the night at my friend's mom house over there on the floor with kids because she didn't have like, you know, place to like to host us. I mean, like as normal, but it was good and we were lucky since one day before, you know, she spent the night by herself in the basement of her house because it was like air raid and so we were lucky just, you know, to spend as normal people like in the house and not anywhere else. Then on the third day, you know, we woke up as well early in the morning, take our kids, sit in the car and went to Lviv. And hopefully, you know, we plan to visit like Israeli embassy over there, somebody from the embassy to get our papers. Because Rosie, she was born in October and she didn't have any document to move out from Ukraine except the birth certificate. And, you know, before war, like 1 month, it seems to me in January, like just after holidays, you know, I contacted the embassy. They asked me, you know, to do apostolization, like translation of her birth certificate to make documents for her. But like it took us 3 weeks to prepare everything. I mean, this is like normal in Ukraine. And then, you know, I apply online for invitation for something like this. But then the war starts and she was without documents. So probably our aim was to meet somebody to provide her with the documents. And, you know, that morning when we arrived to Lviv, I called to the embassy and that morning the air raid siren started even in Lviv. I mean, and they like the person, sorry. And that morning they told us that, you know, even they like, I mean, the people from embassies, they are living in Poland and every day they go for work to Lviv. I mean, because Lviv is like 60 kilometers distance from Poland border. So in that morning they didn't come and it was Thursday as far as I remember. And they asked me, so tomorrow we are not going to work, just call us maybe Sunday, maybe Sunday we will be there. So we spent like 2 nights in Lviv. Yeah, in the morning on Sunday, I just called them back, you know, as we agreed. And they told us, no, we are not going, you know, to open our doors in Lviv now. Then you have to go directly to the border with Poland. They mentioned which one. It's like Medica border control. I mean, and yeah, and just, you know, like wave us or call us, we will find you somehow. We don't know how, and we'll manage the documents. We don't know how. So it was like, you know, it was like a nightmare. So, but otherwise, you know, nothing to do. We took our kids, you know, get in the car again, go to Truskovets to spend the night one again, because it's like very close to the border. And in the morning, it was like, you know, because just for you to understand, but you know, it like from the news, but the line, if you want to pass the border in the car, like it was like, you know, cold still in Ukraine, it's winter almost, it's like -3 and snowing. And if you want to cross the border by car, you have to spend in car 3 days. I mean, 3 whole days to wait in line to cross the border. Otherwise, you just can walk in without the car. It took you like half a day, maybe a day. So we didn't know. But for sure, for us, like to spend 3 days wasn't an option. You know, we decided just to leave the car in Truskovets, and we found a driver, like, you know, who agreed to take us to the border and live there. So we arrived like early morning to the border, with kids, say bye to the driver and just stay there, and I was always like calling all the day long to the embassy, asking where are they, sending them our geolocation. So we were like, to connect somehow, and only like then at 5 o'clock in the evening, because I know they're not working like all day long, they're all people, I mean, they cannot work like 24/7, it's impossible, because they're like, I mean, like thousands and hundreds of refugees, and Israeli one, including, who are willing to get out from there. So since it was like 5 o'clock and nobody like didn't found us, starting from 8 o'clock in the morning, I started to worry, like really, because, to spend night, and all this time we were sitting next to custom control, just, understand, in the middle of nowhere. I mean, and then, I just approached to service person from the custom control and tell us that like we are going to Israel, we have like our documents, but our daughter and my husband, by chance, 2 days before war, just he lost his documents in Kiev, and and it was like, oh my gosh. But okay, he still had his like Taudat Ole, as it said, but this is like not a foreign passport, you can get out from the country, nothing like this. But so I explained the situation, and he told me, just go and try, they will lead you out, like get you out from the country, that's for sure. So we just get out from the country, really. And then when we were staying in the middle of the borders between like Ukraine and Poland, someone from the embassy just called on my phone number, because I left, every time I called them, I left my phone number to connect with me, as they started asking where am I. So I just was able like to explain that we're already like out from Ukraine, but still not in Poland, just in the middle. So and they called, just probably they managed to call to the Poland custom and ask them to let us in, because without documents, I mean, they didn't want to let us in Poland. So it was like, it was all the situation, it was so stressful, because like, of course, when like you're adult, you're in stress, but we were worried really like more about our kids and about ourselves, because I mean, I'm sorry.
You take a moment, okay? We're here with you.
So just because it was like, like plenty of people, like, when you see the movie like about the Second World War, what I'm telling about, like thousands of people, like bags of people with kids were crying all the time. I mean, Albert was crying because he doesn't like when there are like a lot of people, and when like, especially when children are crying and somebody is crying, he started to cry as well. It was like nightmare. But and it's so scary when you're like almost like, okay, he's like almost 4, but when he's like open his eyes in the mornings, like, mom, there is like war in Kiev, and I saw scary tanks, I hear the bombs, and it was like, and again, it is like, yes, there is war. Now he knows these words, now he knows what does it mean. I mean, yes, he saw like tanks, and before he saw it only in the military museum in Kiev, So nevertheless, we managed to get to Poland, and we got the appointment in the embassy. Since like Ukrainian, like Israeli embassy in Ukraine now, like they were located in Przemyśl. This is a city very close to the border in Poland. So we have the appointment. The next day we arrived to Poland, and the good thing, and I really like appreciate what they did. They were very fast with the documents, so it took us like 5 hours, to get our papers. We were waiting, but still they provide like my husband and Rosie with laissez-passer. This is like a sort of ID document which is valid for 14 days. And with this document, you probably can get out from, I mean, like any country of the world and get into Israel. And for sure, this is like, I mean, like some employees, they're like who is working on the custom control, passport control, they're not familiar with such kind of documents. since still this is not a passport, but this is something that is valid according to the law of passports in Israel. So every time, we show these documents, we have to explain this and wait longer than like usually, while like somebody prove it. But anyway, yeah, we were lucky, to get out really, because the person from the embassy, he told us like, take your papers, buy the tickets as soon as possible and get out from here, even from Poland, because nobody knows what is going to happen even here, since it's like so close to Ukraine, and you see what is going on. And we were, we were like from Przemyśl, we traveled to Warsaw because, this is like a nearest city from which the flight would happen, like to Tel Aviv directly. And on the railways, it's like, well, it's a catastrophe. I mean, people packed as herrings, in those wagons. It's like, okay, it's free of charge, but I mean, this is like not easy for sure. For a lot of people, this is like a chance to get out. But I mean, you get in and you like sitting, for 5 hours or 4 hours on your luggages with kids. I mean, it's very difficult. I don't know. But nevertheless, yeah, we bought the tickets, and Rosie, she was so worried, she couldn't sleep all those like days that we were traveling. She like only eat, looking at me and like fall out for 15 minutes and woke up, starting like eating again in a row. And then she's just crying like for 2 hours in a row, in the evening before she was able to sleep. And the first night she was sleeping like, okay, was when we get to Poland, because maybe just because of the stress, maybe because she felt our stress as well, in all the situation. I don't know, but yeah, we managed, to leave Poland like and to arrive to Israel. And lucky we that we have like Israeli passports, because otherwise, we were among those people who now like refugees in Europe without documents, without nothing, like having this status. Yes, that we really appreciate, and I can say it on behalf of all Ukrainians, because we have like, I have my sister she's now in Poland, and we have like a lot of friends from Kiev, and they like, spread it around Europe, and they're like in different countries, in Germany, in Switzerland, in Hungary, like. And I can say like that really like European people, they do a lot, I mean, for Ukrainians, and they support a lot, but still, I mean, it's kind of stressful because they were like, and we know like personally all of these people, I mean, like a lot of them who like now in Europe, they're with own kids, with families, they had their own like career, business, normal life, peaceful life. And now they just, they're they don't know about anything about their future of their kids, and they don't know how long it will be, and when it will stop. I mean, the war, because in Russia they call it with a special word like special operation, this is like a misleading naming for a terrible, war that they started. And yeah, and what, I'm really like thankful like as well for all the people, who support, since like via our friends, I mean, they're living in Switzerland. We like have a lot of support here in Israel, because like we have friends and Jewish like community, because people really do care about what is going on, and they do care about Ukrainian people. And for sure, when we arrive, like I would like to thank like Tair and Ben Siroben and to family Tearing, who were like hosting us upon our arrival, and now to Tair and Ben who are hosting us while we're looking for the apartment. It means a lot. It means everything, because like, it's when you arrive like with 2 luggages and kids, and you have like zero, nothing, you don't know where to go, what to do. I mean, and supports mean a lot.
Yana, I wanted to tell you, if you need to take a deep breath or a drink of water, please do.
I'm fine, thank you. No, but like as soon as you drink a lot of something water, you start to cry more. It's like water need to get out somehow, at least. But yeah, and but the war, when I'm like thinking about what has happened, I mean, this is like, and we observe in the news every day, and our stories is a, let's say, almost happy end story. I can nothing to say about. I mean, I cannot even complain about our situation, because I know my parents, they're in Ukraine and they're in worse situation. I mean, because they're, in dangerous. And a lot of people, as I say, like in Europe, they're in worse situation. Needless to say about those who is like in Mariupol and now who's like just surviving somehow and managed to survive, because like no food, no medicine, nothing, and because the war happened, nobody expected, and we like just, I'm just thinking, what could we do that we didn't do, like how much, like maybe, I just don't know, I call my mom every day. Just, to say how much I love her, how much I want to hug her, and I cannot do this. And the worst situation that, frankly speaking, I don't know when we will be able to do this, And I mean, like now millions of Ukrainians are in the same situation, like thousands of families just split it. And as well, since like my husband, he is not Ukrainian. I mean, he never had Ukrainian passport at all. That is why like we get out like as a whole family. Otherwise we saw like terrible things, when like the men they just bring their families to the border and wave their hands by and stay in Ukraine. And like it was like a tears apart families, and women staying there and crying, and were like, I'm like 35 and there were like young girls, I mean, like they're like 20 and have their own kids. And it was like, I mean, for them, it's so difficult, to leave the country without support with the small kids in their hands. So just, I mean, this war, I mean, make us appreciate like, everyday simple human things, just to appreciate like the sunshine, appreciate the peace, appreciate like regular food, appreciate the fact that you're sitting in your home. I mean, in your cozy chair, drinking from your favorite cup, just a cup of tea or coffee, and be able to like visit your friends in the evening and be able to go to the work and to the office and enjoy it every day, despite the fact how difficult it is and how hard everybody is working. I mean, but you really, and now you understand that it wasn't difficult. It was all the pleasure all way long, everything. Because we were carried like regular, we have like some, like everybody will have some their own troubles, this and that, troubles in business, troubles like in family, in relationship. But this, like, I mean, nothing compared to what is happening now, really. This is just, just we have to cherish every day of our life, and, thank God that we have everything that we have, everything that He gave us. So this is the main thing. And the other thing, this is important to notice, and this is what I submit, I mean, like personally, what I felt. So for sure, war is a terrible thing. I mean, it's about deaths, it's about ruined lives, it's about, I mean, the sorrow, but the war for our family, for sure, it's as well about like, how it's about friendship as well, because my husband, as I told you, and I, like, we have our own business. And before that, we were living in Moscow, like especially I was living in Moscow before like 2018 for many, many years. And we used to have like a lot of friends over there. But what was happening, when the war started, very, very few people, I mean, among even my friends were even asking how we are. I mean, whether everything is all fine. I mean, they even start to unsubscribe, I mean, from the accounts, and it was, I mean, it was so difficult because, like when it's like in English, we have this wonderful word community. Just to let you know, we don't have such kind of word in like in Ukraine or even in Russia. Like maybe we have this in vocabulary, but in reality, the meaning of this, it's absolutely absent. And when I was like, I get my degrees, it's just, you know, they will finish soon. Like I get my degrees from the New York University of Integrative Nutrition, and they were speaking all the time during the course about community, that you can like, you know, give it to your community, you can benefit from the community, people from the community will support you, and etc. And you can support the community definitely. And I was thinking like, what is he saying about? What is a community? What does it mean? Because for us, it's like, we don't have such an, you know, the meaning. And now like when like we are like here in Israel, and, you know, we feel this strong support from the Jewish community. I mean, now I understand what does it mean. Now I understand what does understand for me, you know, this means a lot, like for me and for our family. And it's such a pity that like in our country, we don't have such a meaning, and in our country, it seems like we lose a lot of friends, or those people who we consider that our friends, you know, since just they live in Russia and they think this is not considering, don't bother them. They continue their like life, you know. I cannot judge them, and nobody, like my husband, we do not judge, but at least, you know, it's human being to ask at least, how are you guys? I mean, so it's almost difficult. So just to finish what I wanted to say. So the war, yeah, it's about friendship as well. It's about humanity, you know, it's about help. It's about community. Yes, indeed. And it's about the fact that children, you know, they grow so quickly. Just all the children, you know, they become adult in one day. And we cannot do vice versa in this case, nothing, you know. And yeah, just really pray every day that this war, you know, stops soon. But unfortunately, you know, I should admit that unfortunately nothing will be the same as it was. Nothing. And I don't know how long, I personally don't know, and for sure all the Ukrainians, they don't know how long will it take to get at least to the normal reality, you know, to be able to come back to their homes, you know, and to see their relatives. Nobody knows. And some of them, unfortunately, will never see them again.
Yana, we're going to give you a chance to take a breath while we look at some questions that some people have. One of the first things I wanted to ask you is, what town or area in the Ukraine were you living in? And if you know the status of your home and your community.
Thank you very much for the question. Yes, we were from Kiev, and we were living just in the city center of Kiev. Our house is still okay. I mean, it is stay there. I mean, yeah, but you know, we had like in Kiev, we had like two nannies. One nanny is for Albert, and another one, it was like for Rosie. And our second nanny, she lived in Bucha. I don't know whether you're aware of this city or not. This is a city on the north of Kiev, and she's been kept there. She cannot escape. I mean, she cannot evacuate. She has 12 years old daughter and husband, and they're still in their apartment. And she called once per week for 30 seconds to her sister, because we know, because we're all connected, I mean, with the sister of our nanny. And all she said, like, we have food, we have water, and we are alive. I cannot speak more. And then she switched off, because the occupants, they live in the house nearby, and they beat out the door in their house, put them down on the floor, faces down, check their papers, and told them, if you want to survive, just never ever even think about escape from here. Just stay where you are, and that's it. Now they're going, you know, just went out from their house to take the water just on the street with the white, these stripes, you know, they have to put white stripes on their clothes just so the quick militarian do not recognize them, you know. I mean, and this is our nanny. I mean, this is like very close person to us. I mean, and they have like their house, view houses on the road, and all the rest of Bucha is destroyed. Absolutely. It's like not a city anymore, you know. So.
So, Yana, can you talk about how you got the Israeli passports and when you got them?
Yeah, we did Aliyah in 2018 together with my husband. We did Aliyah, but we plan, I mean, maybe like it will be good for us for sure, we like, because we're like, we have our own business, and in your business, you used to think strategically. It's a normal thing. And in 2018, back in 2018, I know we had like our own business in Ukraine. I mean, so we did the document and said, like, okay, maybe when we will be like 50 or 60, we will go, for retirement to Israel. I mean, it's wonderful. I like, I love Israel. We've been like many times before. We did Aliyah in Israel. I mean, like Israelis doctors, needless to say, they saved my life because, because like in 2011, I had like cancer, and in 2014, I have like recurrence of cancer. And I mean, like Israeli medicine, the doctors here is amazing and just saved my life, and due to this, like I'm alive and happy mom, what should I say? And we said, for sure, if you now have such an opportunity to be in Israel, why not? I mean, and when we did Aliyah, we just came back to Ukraine, to continue our life and to build our business, and that's it. And nobody knows that our retirement will happen so soon.
Thank you so much for that. There is another question. Some folks are asking if your parents are safe in the Ukraine, and are they going to be trying to leave?
Listen, my parents, they are alive, and we have to thank God they're alive. My father, he's 55. He's military obliged due to age, because every man in Ukraine between the age of 18 until 60, they're military obliged now. So my father is military obliged, and my mom stays with my father first. And then secondly, she takes care about grandmother, about her mother. So my grandmother, since my grandmother, she's very sick and she's laying in the bed and she's unable to move, she has like dementia, and like she needs somebody to take care about her. And about safety in Ukraine, but I mean, they save as much as it possible in Ukraine to be safe. I mean, for sure, it's not so dangerous like in Mariupol, but they have like air raid sirens like 2 days ago, because I like subscribed to the group, whereas and whenever something happening, we have like air sirens in the phone. So they have it's like 8 times per day. So 8 times per day, they're going down in the basement, to hide themselves. I mean, what will happen? I mean, nobody knows, but for the moment, they're like, okay.
So, Yana, there's a question about what we can do here in New Jersey to help you and your family.
In New Jersey, guys, frankly speaking, it's wonderful, first of all, that you spread my story to the people, because I do believe that awareness make a difference, and this is one thing. Another thing that I saw like a lot of people, they did in like humanitarian aid for Ukraine and for Ukrainians. This is something as well that could work, because like I know I didn't get whether you will go to Poland to the border already, whether you will go, yes? So maybe just, to go there and to help people, even like support them like emotionally, because it's so difficult. And I know since like the community is so strong, maybe like within the community, and for sure, I know that some refugees are going even to USA now, I mean, from Ukraine. I don't know what is the amount of these people, but still. And for sure, for all the Ukrainians and for all the refugees, the most important topic and the more important thing is work. I mean, we need to have jobs, at least something, to be able to feed our babies, because otherwise, we cannot rely on the any aid, because it's like, it's always minimum. So yes, if business have opportunity, to provide with jobs some people, I mean, with any, it would be wonderful, if there will be like support to create like business and to do something, that would be wonderful. Since this is a basement from which, I mean, every family could like move on.
I think you bring up a very important part of the refugee crisis is the what now aspect. Now, I know you guys own your own company. Are you going to be able to continue working and using your own company as your job, or are you and your husband going to have to start fresh as well?
So about our business, as I mentioned, we provided services to Ukrainian developers. We understand very well that even when the war will stop, there will be not possible. I mean, within like the next 2-3 years minimum, it will be like no orders for us. I mean, there will be no work, so there will be no cash flow, nothing, because we can understand that like we were providing services for those developers for newly constructed projects. So like, we from real estate companies, we created like sales offices, for the developers, and our advertisement and communication agency. So we created like overall the concept of the newly constructed building, the naming, branding, logo, everything, I mean, for the new projects. Who will pay, I mean, for this after war? There will be much more different priorities in the country rather than do this. So for us, I mean, to continue business in Ukraine, it will be quite impossible. I mean, for sure, my husband already, started to do something very similar since like in Ukraine, we had as well, just before war, we launched a marketplace on real estate as well. So what my husband started to do when we have come here, like, 5 days ago, he contacted already some members of our team who were working with us in Ukraine. Now they're like, some of them are abroad and some of them, on the west part of Ukraine. And they're like, they are more or less safety. I mean, they need to work as well. And so they started to create, I mean, the marketplace for Israel. So I don't know whether it will work or not here, but at least, they're trying to do something. And for me, since I was like responsible in our companies for legal matters and for financial aspects, for me, I do believe that I have to search for a new work here. I mean, in Israel, that's definitely so. So I'm like absolutely open to like job opportunities, because, we need to stand on our feet and, to move on. And the best thing that we could do is as sooner as we will be all right, I mean, we will be able to help to our families who is in Ukraine.
Yeah. One of the other questions I think we skipped over is you had mentioned that your husband was exempt from the mandatory stay, meaning that he's not Ukrainian. So what nationality is Andrew, and how is he able to avoid that?
My husband, he was born in Russia. He was born on the far east of Russia. It was that time when he was born, it was USSR, frankly speaking, even not Russia, but it was like USSR, and he was born in Khabarovsk. Khabarovsk is a city that located on the far east of Russia. It's almost close to the border with China, just for you to understand. Yeah, and he was able to get his papers because his dad and his grandmother, they're all Jew. So it's interesting thing, because like it's half, they're like his grandmother, she's a Jew, and his grandfather, he's died already, but he was like Austrian.
So Jana, just one last question for me. Prior to like the first bombs and the military action, it showed on TV that the Russians were encircling the Ukraine at the border, and it took them time to get there. Was there a lot of discussion about that, like prior to a month ago, about what could potentially happen?
Listen, for sure there were a lot of discussions, for sure, like we have the news and we saw everything, because like we are broadcasting not only Ukrainian news, like we're speaking English, I mean, so we're broadcasting like everything like CNN, like whatever, Euronews, whatsoever, but nobody trusts. I mean, not nobody trusts. This is like, this is not a correct statement. Nobody believe in the fact that somebody is going bombing Kiev, capital of
Yeah.
Ukraine, or any other city except the east of Ukraine, because we were thinking, okay, maybe something will going on. Maybe something will be with this Donetsk and Lugansk, regions, since they were like war for 8 years. I mean, already, maybe it's just want, to keep those territory. I mean, and that's it. But this is a tragedy too, because for 8 years, people living over there in a nightmare. I know this like personally, since my relatives from my grandfather line, I have like a lot of relatives who live in Lugansk district, a lot of them, like 40 persons at least, 40. And I know how do they live there. It's terrible. This is like the territory. Russia doesn't care about this territory. Ukraine doesn't care about this territory. So people, they have to survive there somehow, and that's it. And yeah, so nobody, nobody believe in the fact that they will invade, like, and they will bomb Kiev, Odessa, Mariupol, Zaporizhia, Kherson, Kharkiv, that was like first capital of Ukraine,
There's a couple more questions. The first question is, can you please explain your decision to leave immediately? What made you say, we're not going to wait, we need to go now?
Because, for us, since it was like a discussion, and since I've been like living in Russia, and in Russia, I mean, I've been living there until 2018, but back like in 2016, I already willing to leave the country, to move back or to Ukraine, or like to look for the opportunities abroad. I wasn't married that time, but just what you need to know about Russia. I remember very well what influenced my decisions that time to leave the country. Because it seems to me, 2016, I don't remember, and it was like election in Russia. And, this like FSB in Russia, this like special organization. So there was like 3 or 4 explosions in Moscow just when the election happened. And they told that this is like terroristic acts. But people like who live in Moscow and actually in Russia, they do know that this is FSB do intentionally, just to take the attention from the election like part, and from the fact what is going on, I mean, in the society, because they need something like people, turn their attention and think what is going on to make some things in, in other field. And after that, when they recognize that they can kill their own population just for their political purpose, it was like, for me, the obvious decision that I'm not going to live for sure in this country, despite the fact that I had like a brilliant career over there. I mean, I could stay, but we didn't want. And my husband, when we met, he didn't want as well. And yeah, since that time, we were looking like where to go. And then Albert appeared in 2018 and we moved to Ukraine, and stayed there.
Yeah, it sounds like it's been quite a journey. One last question, and I think this is an obvious one. On top of dealing with the war, COVID still exists. Were you impacted by any sort of COVID related issues in terms of going in and out of countries or travel restrictions?
No, nothing. And this is like a good. We had COVID just personally, like our family, all our family, including our kids, we had COVID like in the first, it seems to be on the 7th of February, something like this, just, in the beginning of February, we all had COVID. But this is not the matter. I mean, the situation is that this is war. And unfortunately, this is maybe not such an obvious, for people who just even broadcasting news. Because when you're like staying there on the board and you see thousands of people, thousands, I mean, you don't think about COVID. You think about how, you know, to save your life and life of your children. So for sure, and it's good that, let's say, European countries who have the same border with Ukraine, they do understand all the terrible situation and allow people just to get in, you know, and after, you know, they just suggested to do vaccination and all the stuff for those who didn't have. But because in Ukraine, I mean, the level of those who got vaccine is very low. It's like 20% of all the population only. But this is like other topic, you know, but personally, we didn't have like anything. We didn't have any troubles like traveling. We had a lot of our other different troubles, I mean, except COVID and except this like limitations related to the vaccination.
I'm so glad that you guys were able to make that journey. As tough as it was, your story is so impactful, and it was so important for so many people to hear this. And we do plan on sharing the recorded version of this with those folks who couldn't be here today. I did have one more request. You said that your husband is a blogger and active on social media. Knowing that many in our Jewish community, including myself, are the same, we would love to have his information so that we can continue to follow him and your story.
Of course, this is no problem. Yeah.
And thank you, Yana, for taking the time and sharing your story with us. It was really important to hear it, and we are happy that you and your family are safe.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you for finding time for us. And I really hope that you will spread this story. I mean, you know, because it like, you know, it relates to everybody, like in general, you know, despite the fact where do we live. I mean, because I hope that it will never happen with any country, with anybody, but I mean, people have to be aware of what it could be in the 21st century, you know.
Your lives are just like ours. Mike, you know, yes, he works for Pepsi, but he also has his own business. And we can not imagine having to grab a suitcase and try to even fathom what you would throw in there in those, you know, last hours or moments, and leave your home and not know when you're coming back, or even if your home is going to be there, let alone leaving behind your friends, your family, your community. It's very impactful. I'm getting verklempt talking about it with you, but I think that's the point. We want people to relate. And again, just thank you from the bottom of our hearts for being here and being able to tell the story.
Yeah, thank you. And what I wanted just to add, you know, like it's important to have each other, you know, and while like your family, I mean, family of each of you, I don't know, is strong, and while you like support each other, you know, and take care and love each other, that means that everything will be all right despite anything. I mean,
Yana, on behalf of our entire community, we want to thank you for joining us this evening as you're in Israel. We're so glad that you and your family are safe, and hope that we can connect with more families like that. Is there anything else that you want us to share today?
no, I mean, like, thank you very much. I mean, I really appreciate a lot to listen to our stories, and I mean, like, I know like 100 stories of our friends as well, you know, but for sure I cannot like tell everything, because it will be like, you know, hours and hours and hours, and we can speak like from the morning till the midnight about everything. But I mean, at least small piece of what you've heard is, I do believe it means something. I mean,
Thank you for sharing. The Jewish Federation of Somerset, Hunterdon, and Warren counties is so proud to support our partners on the ground in Ukraine and right now very much at the borders. We are already for about a full month now, our partners including JDC, Jewish Agency for Israel, World Ort, and many more have been actively setting up refugee shelter at the border, field hospitals, providing direct service, and then continuing the infrastructure that's already been established in the Jewish community, especially in Ukraine, with over 200,000 Jewish people being in Ukraine and a lot of rich history. We had already been there and will continue to be there. So Yana, your story is challenging, and we're here for you. But I think that it also highlights the hope and opportunity. And we're so glad that you were able to share with us today. And we're so proud to support our partners who can create opportunity like that and ensure that families like yours can get safely wherever they need to be next, whether it's Israel, the United States, or home if that's what's best for them. We are so grateful to you for being here. And it's in addition to that, I also want to share that our executive director, who you might be able to see right now, Robin Wishney, and our president, Ellen Teller, will actually be traveling to Poland next week on behalf of our community to volunteer. And they are collecting medication. We are have very particular instructions from our partners about what they are collecting. We will email that to everyone who attended today with information about that. That will go immediately in duffel bags from Robin's hands to the folks that need it most. And Ellen, so we're very proud that you'll be representing us there, and appreciative of your taking that trip. And we also want to share that our community, through JFNA, the Jewish Federations of North America, our kind of umbrella organization, has already raised close to $30,000. And that has already gone 100% to immediate humanitarian assistance, including food, medicine, medical services, blankets, clothing, shelter, and of course, transportation. So we're here, we're listening, we're watching, and we are ready to do what we need to do to support all refugees, no matter what their background is, and especially on behalf of our Jewish community. We want you to know that. So thank you again.
Yeah. And thank you for your community. Thank you guys for what you are doing. I mean, everything means really so much for all the Ukrainians, you know, who are now seeking like refuge in any country. I mean, whether it's like Israel, USA, or any European country, this really matters. I mean, like their hearts, I mean, as our hearts are with you as well. Thank you.
Thank you